of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Just a spoonful of sugar, goes the song. But what happens to that sugar once you swallow it? In fact, how is it that you're able to swallow it at all? Your digestive system performs amazing feats every day, whether you eat a double cheeseburger or a stalk of celery.
Digestion is important for breaking down food into nutrients, which the body uses for energy, growth, and cell repair. Food and drink must be changed into smaller molecules of nutrients before the body absorbs them and carries them to cells throughout the body.
Digestion works by moving food through the GI tract. Digestion begins in the mouth with chewing and ends in the small intestine. As food passes through the GI tract, it mixes with digestive juices, causing large molecules of food to break down into smaller molecules.
Your digestive system is uniquely constructed to perform its specialized function of turning food and energy you need to survive and packaging the residue for waste disposal. To help you understand how many parts of the digestive system work together, here is an overview of the structure and function of this complex system.
The mouth. The mouth is the beginning of the digestive tract. And in fact, digestion starts here when taking the first bite of food. Chewing breaks down the food into pieces that are more easily digested, while saliva mixes with the food to begin the process of breaking it down into a form your body can absorb and use.
The esophagus. The esophagus is located in your throat near your trachea. The esophagus receives food from your mouth when you swallow. By means of a series of muscular contractions called peristalsis, the esophagus delivers food to your stomach.
The stomach. The stomach is a hollow organ or container that holds food while it is being mixed with enzymes that continue the process of breaking down food into a usable form. Cells in the lining of the stomach secrete a strong acid and powerful enzymes that are responsible for the breakdown process. When the contents of the stomach are sufficiently processed, they are released into the small intestine.
The small intestine. The small intestine is made up of three segments: the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The small intestine is a 22-foot long muscular tube that breaks down food using enzymes released by the pancreas and bile from the liver.
The duodenum is largely responsible for the continuous breakdown process, with the jejunum and ileum mainly responsible for absorption of nutrients into the bloodstream. Contents of the small intestine start out semi-solid and end in a liquid form after passing through the organ. Water, bile, enzymes, and mucus contribute to the change in consistency. Once the nutrients have been absorbed and the leftover food residue liquid has passed through the small intestine, it moves on to the large intestine or colon.
The pancreas. The pancreas secretes digestive enzymes into the duodenum, the first segment of the small intestine. These enzymes break down protein, fats, and carbohydrates. The pancreas also makes insulin, secreting it directly into the bloodstream. Insulin is the chief hormone for metabolizing sugar.
The liver. The liver has multiple functions, but its main function within the digestive system is to process the nutrients absorbed from the small intestine. Bile from the liver secreted into the small intestine also plays an important role in digesting fat. In addition, the liver is the body's chemical factory. It takes the raw materials absorbed by the intestine and makes all the various chemicals the body needs to function. The liver also detoxifies potentially harmful chemicals. It breaks down and secretes many drugs.
The gallbladder. The gallbladder stores and concentrates bile and then releases it into the duodenum to help absorb and digest fats.
The colon, or large intestine. The colon is a 6-foot long muscular tube that connects the small intestine to the rectum. The large intestine is made up of the cecum, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, and the semigoid colon. which connects to the rectum. The appendix is a small tube attached to the cecal. The large intestine is a highly specialized organ that is responsible for processing waste so that emptying the bowels is easy and convenient.
Stool or waste left over from the digestive process is passed through the colon by means of peristalsis, first in a liquid state and ultimately in a solid form. As the stool passes through the colon, water is removed. Stool is stored in a sigmoid C-shaped colon until a mass movement empties it into the rectum once or twice a day.
It normally takes about 36 hours for stool to get through the colon. The stool itself is mostly food debris and bacteria. These bacteria perform several useful functions, such as synthesizing various vitamins, processing waste products and food particles, and protecting against harmful bacteria. When the descending colon becomes full of stool or feces, it empties its contents into the rectum to begin the process of elimination.
The rectum. The rectum is an 8-inch chamber that connects from the colon to the anus. It is the rectum's job to receive stool from the colon and let the person know that there is stool to be evacuated, and to hold the stool until evacuation happens. When anything comes to the rectum, the sensors send a message to the brain. The brain then decides if the rectal contents can be released or not. If they can, the sphincters relax and the rectum contracts, disposing its contents. If the contents cannot be disposed, the sphincter contracts and the rectum accommodates so that the sensation temporarily goes away.
The anus. The anus is the last part of the digestive tract. It is a 2-inch long canal consisting of the pelvic floor muscles and the 2 anal sphincters, internal and external. The lining of the upper anus is specialized to detect rectal contents. It lets you know whether the contents are liquid, gas, or solid. The anus is surrounded by sphincter muscles that are important in allowing control of the stool. The pelvic floor muscles create an angle between the rectum and the anus that stops stool from coming out when it is not supposed to.
Let's talk more in depth about the stomach. The stomach is a muscular sac that lies in between the esophagus and the small intestine in the upper abdomen. The stomach is not the only part of the digestive system that absorbs food, but rather is a part of the digestive system and important for turning food into a consistency that is easier to digest for the rest of your intestines.
Functions of the stomach. The stomach is J-shaped and it can expand to temporarily store food. Partial digestion of the food takes place here. The churning action of the stomach muscles physically break down the food. The stomach releases acids and enzymes for the chemical breakdown of food. The enzyme pepsin is responsible for protein breakdown. The stomach releases food into the small intestine in a controlled and regulated manner. The stomach can be divided into 4 distinct parts. There are the cardia, fundus, corpus, and pylorus.
The cardia is the first portion of the stomach and is where the food content passes from the esophagus into the stomach. The acid and the enzymes referred to as gastric juices are manufactured in the cardia. The fundus stores undigested food and also the gases released from the chemical digestion of food.
The body of the stomach, or corpus, is the largest of 4 parts that make up the stomach. And this is where the bulk of partial digestion occurs. The pylorus is connected to the duodenum, or the beginning of the small intestine. The contents of the stomach move into the small intestine via the pyloric canal.
The stomach wall. The walls of the stomach consist of 4 layers, similar to the other parts of the gastrointestinal tract. These layers, starting from the innermost layer, are named mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, externa, and the serosa.
The mucosa consists mainly of the gastric glands that secrete the digestive juices. It is covered by a layer of columnar epithelial tissue. The submucosa consists of dense connective tissue and has blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves running through it. The submucosa supports the mucosa and allows it to move in a flexible manner during peristalsis.
Peristalsis is the contraction and relaxation of the stomach muscles to physically break down food and propel it forward. These contractions are created by the muscular wall of the stomach, which consists of inner circular and outer longitudinal smooth muscle.
The outermost layer of the stomach wall, the sulcosa, consists of an epithelial layer and connective tissue which connects to the surrounding organs. The mucosa and the submucosa are present as folds, termed rugae. When the stomach is distended with food, the rugae are flattened out and appear smooth. There are four main types of cells for stomach secretion spread all over the inner surface of the stomach.
Mucosous cells secrete the alkaline mucosis for shielding the epithelium from hydrochloric acid. These are found in fundic, cardiac, and pyloric region. Parietal cells located in the fundic, cardiac, and pyloric region secrete hydrochloric acid. The acid activates release of pepsin for protein digestion. The acid also kills microorganisms swallowed with the food. Chief cells secrete pepsin. These cells are located in the fundic region.
G cells are found in the fundic, pyloric, and gastric region. These secrete gastrin, which stimulates the secretion of hydrochloric acid.
One of the diseases associated with the digestive system is celiac disease. What is celiac disease? Celiac disease is a disease where you have a serious sensitivity to gluten, a protein that is mainly found in barley, wheat, and rye bread. What happens is that your immune system goes under attack when you eat gluten. It damages the villi, the finger-like protrusions in the small intestines that help you absorb nutrients from the food you eat. Symptoms of celiac disease in kids include abdominal pain and bloating, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, and weight loss. Symptoms in adults also can include anemia, fatigue, bone loss, depression, and seizures.
What causes celiac disease? There's not an exact form of how exactly celiac disease is caused, but in some ways that the disease is acquired is from inheritance, damage of the intestinal lining, poor nutrition, enzyme deficiency, gluten demonization, leaky gut syndrome, genetically modified foods that are altered from their original form, and hybridization of wheat creating cultivars that are not tested for safety or antigenicity.
Mode of action. In celiac disease, one of the mechanisms that can play a role in gluten toxicity using different cell models, it has been reported that gluten exposure reflects in an intracellular oxidative imbalance characterized by an increase in levels of lipid peroxidation products, reduced glutenine ratio, and a decrease of protein-bound sulfohydryl groups.
How is celiac disease diagnosed? Celiac disease can be diagnosed with screenings as well as several serological tests are made to properly diagnose celiac disease. One of the most commonly used tests is called TTG-IgA test. To be tested under this test, you must consume gluten. After the tests are done, your blood results would normally determine whether you have it or don't have celiac disease.
How is celiac disease treated? The best way to treat the disease isn't necessarily the disease being treated, but more like cutting gluten entirely out of your diet. After dropping gluten from your diet, your condition should improve within a few days.
Points to remember. Digestion is important for breaking down food into nutrients, which the body uses for energy, growth, and cell repair. Digestion works by moving food through the GI tract.
Digestion begins in the mouth with chewing and ends in the small intestine. As food passes through the GI tract, it mixes with the digestive juices, causing large molecules of food to break down into smaller molecules.
The body then absorbs these smaller molecules, through the walls of the small intestine into the bloodstream, which delivers them to the rest of the body. Waste products of digestion pass through the large intestine and out the body as solid matter called stool.
And that is the end of your lesson for the digestive system.
Bye.